We know that it just means more in the SEC, but there are also some very intriguing non-conference games in the 2023 SEC football slate this fall. Time to dig in to the top 10 non-conference games of the 2023 SEC schedule. Hello, everyone. I'm Blayne Gilmer. Welcome to Southeastern 14, the channel that covers SEC each and every day, whether it's basketball, baseball, football. I cover football in the offseason. Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, they do a great job covering basketball and baseball. They're going to join me in football coverage as the year goes on as well. So if you like all things SEC, make sure you are subscribed right here. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, give us a like. We appreciate that as well. If you're listening on podcast, rate, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. But without further ado, let's get into the top 10 non-conference games of the year. I'm going to start out with Arizona going to Mississippi State. This was a game last year where Mississippi State made the trip out to Arizona. I'm intrigued by this one simply because I believe that it's going to be interesting to see the evolution of, going from the air raid of Mike Leach's system, of course, his untimely passing this past season. Now Zach Arnett, who's been the longtime defensive coordinator there at Mississippi State, takes over as the head coach, and he's brought in Kevin Barbay from Appalachian State, who's going to bring more of a pro-style type system. They're going to have actually tight ends on the roster. I mean, think about that. Mississippi State didn't have any tight ends on the roster. It's very, very interesting to see how this thing will evolve, how it will change. Mississippi State won this game 39-17 last year at Arizona. So it's not that I'm thinking that the talent has changed that much that Arizona will be a favorite in Starkville or anything like that. I just want to see, okay, what does this look like? How does Will Rogers and those talented wide receivers, Digit Griffin, Rufus Harvey, Justin Robinson, all of these talented receivers come back for Will Rogers to try to hit. So it's going to be interesting to see how they transition from one offense to another. I like that non-conference game coming in at number 10. Number 9, Auburn at Cal. Okay. Listen, this is going to be the second game of the Hugh Freeze era when Auburn travels out to Cal Berkeley. And listen, the thing about this is Auburn, just show us who you are. Are you for real or are you not? Because Cal was 4-8 last year, one of the worst teams in college football. You're going to have come off what is likely to have been a huge win over UMass at home. How do you handle going on the road? Is this TJ Finley's team? Is this Robbie Ashford's team? You see Jarquez Hunter there in the picture. There's still some debate on who the quarterback will be. They're kind of going through a spring competition here. So Jarquez Hunter is going to be that constant, we feel like, for Auburn. Got to see who's going to step up at receiver. There's a lot of guys that have returned. They've brought in some guys from transfer portal, but nobody has kind of really established themselves yet, at least going through spring practice and stuff like that here. I don't think, again, another one that I don't know if there's as much intrigue about, should be as much intrigue about, okay, what happens on the field, because I would think Auburn would be a favorite on the road at Cal. But you got Jaden Ott coming back. They've got some other senior players coming back from Cal. You can't afford in game 2 of the Hugh Freeze era to have a slip up here. Need to go in and have a strong performance. So that comes in at number 9 for me, with Auburn going all the way over to the West Coast in game 2 on September 10th. UTSA at Tennessee. This one, people are going to be like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The UTSA Roadrunners coming to Knoxville. This is a very, very experienced team in UTSA. They bring in Frank Harris, as you see, the quarterback there, and he seems like he has been there forever. And he's done a lot of really good things during his time there for the Roadrunners. I am excited to see how Tennessee follows up such a successful year and see how the Roadrunners follow up all their success as well. It is going to be an intriguing ball game. Tennessee will likely be a heavy favorite with this being at Knoxville, but this is a very, very good football team in UTSA and one that is not going to be daunted by the situation. Also, this game is sandwiched in between Tennessee going on the road to Florida and them hosting South Carolina. So you got to make sure that Josh Heupel and company are able to focus on the Roadrunners because, like I said, UTSA is a good football team. In the last 2 seasons, UTSA is a combined 23-5 on the year. Jeff Traylor doing a great job there. You look at Frank Harris, he completed last year 69.6% of his passes, over 4,000 yards passing. Just a tremendous job. He's got 600 yards rushing, so a dual threat quarterback that Tennessee will have to contend with in that game. Listen, I think Tennessee should win the football game, but don't be surprised if, coming between 2 tough SEC opponents that UTSA comes into Knoxville and, covers a spread or gives Tennessee a run for their money. Still going to be interesting there to see how the quarterback position plays out for Tennessee, as well as Joe Milton hold on to that job the entire year. And how does that Josh Heupel offense look with some of the key weapons having been gone? Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, all the like. So an exciting game there. That one comes in at number 8. Number 7, Kansas State versus Missouri. This is a game that I think if you're Missouri, you're really looking to bounce back because last year this game was rough. Kansas State won big on their route to a Big 12 championship that they actually defeated TCU, who would go on to play Georgia in the national championship after beating Michigan. But it was a great year for Kansas State, and it was a year that Missouri had a couple of close losses, really 4 losses by less than a touchdown that could have changed their entire year. This game was not one of them. Kansas State had it going away. You know that Missouri getting them at home this time is going to want to change that. Will Howard, senior quarterback. They've got seniors all across the front of the line of scrimmage as well. So you know that they're going to want to make amends for what happened from that 40-12 victory last year for Kansas State. Eli Drinkwitz and company, I think, could be a dark horse in the SEC this year. That guy pictured right there, Luther Burden, got to get him the football. Kirby Moore's been brought in from Fresno State as the new offensive coordinator. Got to find a way to get him some touches, Luther Burden, that is. So number 7, Will Howard and Kansas State traveling to Missouri with Luther Burden, Theo Wees. We'll see who the quarterback ends up being. Kirby Moore is the new offensive coordinator, and Eli Drinkwitz with a new contract extension. So that's number 7 right there, Kansas State at Missouri. Number 6, South Carolina, North Carolina. This is a neutral site game. Be played in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium. This can be a matchup of 2 very recognizable quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler seems like he's been around forever. He's really trying to make one more go around to kind of capture some of that momentum he had it last season, make it last the entire season this year, and really help his draft stock. Whereas Drake May comes into the year, he was a Heisman Trophy contender last year, and he's really looking to be a guy who vaults himself into the very, very upper echelon of quarterback and NFL draft boards going out of this upcoming year. So Drake May, tremendous quarterback for Mac Brown and the Tar Heels up there. South Carolina really needs to win this one to get things started off on the right foot, because this is going to be a game that opens up the season September 2nd in Charlotte. They have Furman after that, so they have an opportunity to open up 2-0 if they win this game before a huge matchup with Georgia. What is this offense going to look like with Dow Loggins at the helm? They have been adamant about that. That's the guy they wanted, Shane Beamer, whether it is or not. So we'll see. A lot of criticism on the Dow Loggins hire. Can Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells, and a lot of those guys over for South Carolina, end up being productive enough on offense. They were good enough on defense at times. You have to do a little bit better stopping the run, but North Carolina is more of a pass and attack. Anyways, I'm very intrigued about that matchup in Charlotte. That is number 6. At number 5, we've got Ole Miss going to Tulane. Yes, you have the Ole Miss, the SEC team, going to the Tulane Green Wave. This matchup will take place on September 9th, just the second week of the season after Ole Miss opens up with a tune-up against Mercer. They get thrown right into the fire against Tulane here because remember, Tulane is a team that won its conference championship last year in the American. It also defeated USC in dramatic comeback fashion in the Cotton Bowl. Michael Pratt comes back as a senior quarterback to lead that team. Willie Fritz is a guy who he had the Georgia Tech job wrapped up, but he told him that he was going to stay with his team all the way throughout the bowl. Georgia Tech didn't like that. They moved on. So this is a guy who had opportunities to become a Power 5 coach. Tulane, a team that returns a lot from that Cotton Bowl. Ole Miss, of course, they've got Quinshon Judkins there. Who's going to end up being the quarterback? Is it Spencer Sanders? Of course, they have Jackson Dart returning, Lane Kiffin. We're going to see who the trigger man is for him, but always fun to watch a Lane Kiffin-led team. And it's going to be fun to see him travel to New Orleans and take on Tulane, a good football team early on in the season. Is Ole Miss able to start fast like they did last year? Started the season 7-0. This will be a big threat to that this year because playing at the Green Wave is going to be no joke in week 2 of the season, and that's why they're number 5 on the list. Number 4, this is basically the Desperation Bowl, in my opinion. You have the Jimbo Fisher-led Texas A&M Aggies going on the road to Miami, a rematch of last year, a rock fight that Texas A&M won 17-9. Miami, led by Mario Cristobal, they really need to win this game at home because they struggled last year. Got embarrassed by Middle Tennessee State at home and didn't win many of the games that they had circled as W's early on in the year last year. I think that both of these teams just need this for the momentum, right? They need to be able to say, hey, this program's going in the right direction. And I don't know that a loss on the road early on in the year for Texas A&M will do anything for the buzz going around that fan base. And, hey, how does this play out going forward? Does Jimbo Fisher relent all of the offensive play calling duties to Bobby Petrino? Is he going to be able to kind of be that CEO type guy and get rid of all of that responsibility on the offensive side? And Mario Cristobal, that defense has got to be a lot better. It just shows how bad Texas A&M's offense was last year, that they can only muster 17 points against that Miami team. So it's going to be interesting to see that when that one comes in at number 4 early on in the season in 2023. Texas at Alabama, number 3, the return match. Alabama went out to Texas last year, and the Longhorns gave their future SEC foes all they could handle. If Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt in that game, you would have to think Texas has a really good shot. They've got weapons like you see there. Jatavian Sanders, he's going to be one of the best tight ends in America next year. Questions for Alabama, of course. Who's the quarterback? We still don't know at this point yet. That may not even be decided until all the way, into the season, how that goes. There may be both quarterbacks actually play in this game for Alabama. Could see Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson in this one. But it's in Tuscaloosa. You got experienced players like Ja'Cory Brooks and Jermaine Burton coming back at receiver. Offensive line, there's a lot of youth for Alabama. So how will that play out? What will that look like? Who ends up being the left tackle? A lot of questions to answer. Of course, you got Dallas Turner, Kool-Aid McKinstry, some big names over on the defensive side. Caleb Downs, a talented freshman coming in. I'm very intrigued to see this one. This is Texas's last kind of, trial run at the SEC before they actually are a part of the SEC. Their last year in the Big 12 here. So Sark returning to Tuscaloosa. I'm very intrigued by that matchup at number 3. Number 2, you got the Florida Gators traveling out to Utah to take on Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham, and the Utes. They're coming off a Rose Bowl appearance out there. Cameron Rising is a talented quarterback. Listen, the only reason Florida defeated Utah last year is was because of their talented quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft this year. And you see Trevor Etienne there. Florida's really going to have to get the run game going. Him, Montrell Johnson, get some physicality on the offensive line. They lost 4 starters from the offensive line last year. So can they run the football? Can they protect Graham Mertz and the new quarterback there at Florida? Can Billy Napier, catch lightning in a bottle twice and beat a really good Utah team in back-to-back years? It's going to be a tough test on the road. I think Cameron Rising coming back for Utah is a big deal. So that is a tough game. Excited to see, if Florida can prove a lot of people wrong, as many people think it's going to be a down year for the Gators, especially with tough games early on like Utah on the road. And then number 1, this one was a classic last year. We didn't know how good LSU would turn out to be. Everybody expects LSU to be really, really good this year. Jaden Daniels returns. He's got Jordan Travis and the Florida State Seminoles to deal with in week 1. This is a game in Orlando, Florida this year, after it was in New Orleans last year. So kind of a home away from home game for Florida State in return for what was a home away from home game for the Tigers last year. Listen, these are 2 teams that have very, very high aspirations this year. Jordan Travis and the Florida State Seminoles, Mike Norvell, they brought back a ton of talent. Jared Verse on the defensive side that could have been a high first-round draft pick. He's come back. That Florida State NIL operative has done a great job of keeping their players there, making them making it attractive for them to return for another year, which is what Jordan Travis did. And he's going to be in a lot of Heisman talk. So is Jaden Daniels. This is an LSU team that has bigger aspirations than it did last year. Last year, it was just kind of happy to be there. Now it's got to have the pressure of, okay, can you repeat as SEC West champs? Can you play Georgia, who is likely to be the SEC East champion again? Can you play them better when it comes time to go to Atlanta and not get, kind of blown out by halftime before it's over with? Brian Kelly's brought in a lot of talent. Brian Kelly has done a great job and been a better fit than I think anybody would have even dreamed of this early on in his tenure there at LSU. But that is the number 1 non-conference game in the 2023 SEC schedule this year. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy what we're doing here at Southeastern 14, throw us a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for when we go live. We'll do some of that during the season. I am Blayne Gilmer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time on Southeastern 14.